cheap solar power, batteries, and electric vehicles are changing the transport and energy sector as we know. I bring in guests to this podcast who will help you with their ideas to navigate this energy transition.
By the way, this episode is also available as a video on our YouTube channel. Just search Energypreneurs.
Thank you for joining.
Let me start with a thought experiment. Imagine today you walk into a car dealership and bought a brand new SUV. Nice car, everything looks good. Your friends told you, maybe consider electric, and you said, no, electric car is not for me. I drive a lot, I go long distances, charging is a problem. I have a lot of anxieties. I won't. Now let's fast forward 10 years. Now it is 2035. Your car is 10-year-old. Those shiny dealerships are mostly gone because they cannot sell gasoline cars anymore. And even you looked at your numbers. Why are not people buying my car when I advertise? You log on to a website and check the offerings that you have on electric cars. The total cost of ownership, interest payment, charging, maintenance, insurance, road tax, all bundle into $1 per month figure, which is much cheaper than your 10-year-old car costing you every month because fuel prices have gone up. You might say, nah, it won't happen. It would. That's my view. And this is why I personally think the debate that we are having right now in Australia, among others, even in Europe, some discussions are, should the ban that by 2035, 2040, no new internal combustion car can be sold in the country? I think it's not needed because Stone Age did not come to an end just because they ran out of stone. Technology took over. So I think if people do not make the right decision in the next 2, 3, 4 years, all of us, those are buying brand new internal combustion engine cars, however fancy that looks, will be stuck with a stranded asset, unable to sell. There may be a small argument to looking at the ban just to support people so that some people need that extra push and keep on blaming the government, but still do it anyway, that they won't be investing in a brand new internal combustion car, say 2030 and beyond, because that will be stranded asset, a major loss of capital and a very high depreciation. I'm sure some will argue, no, this will not happen. I looked at this Sony camera this morning, one of my very favorite cameras. I bought this in 2000. This was the first camera Sony made. But today, any mobile phone takes a much better digital photo than this camera. And we have to appreciate internal combustion engine has done its best to the efficiency. And the clear alternative is electric vehicle. Unfortunately, some of the large car manufacturers ignored that for quite a long time. Now they're coming to the game and things will change, and especially what Chinese cars are doing globally. Electric cars are already cheaper than gasoline car equivalent. And if we just look at some numbers, say if we pick up a Toyota Corolla that everybody understand, it will cost about 7.5 liters per 100 kilometer, very efficient cars. And fuel price is about $1.90, $1.50 per liter. So that's about $3,500 to $3,600 per year in fuel. That's a baseline. And then, of course, we have to pay for maintenance and servicing, maybe about $1,000 at least, insurance about $1,000, registration $500. So even ignoring depreciation, that cost of ownership for the kilometer driven is about, say, $8,000, 7 to 8,000. I'm assuming one drives about 20 to 25,000 kilometers a year. Now, if we add the cost of depreciation to this car, suddenly the dynamics changes, right? Because a 35,000 to 40,000 Corolla, the depreciation alone can add another $4,000 if we depreciate over 10 years. But the real cost of owning then becomes $11,000 a year. And that's the number that matters. And if it depreciates faster, of course, it's worse. But it is not going to go below that line. Now, let's introduce another question. At what point just the savings in maintenance and fuel outweighs the upfront delta of owning an electric vehicle? That number is not very far today, because if you are driving high kilometers, then of course that number narrows down. But then as electric cars become cheaper and cheaper, then I think the world changes dramatically. Because right now we are comparing, saying entry level, a Corolla costs this, an electric vehicle equivalent costs more. My argument is, maybe if you take into account of the maintenance cost and the fuel cost, it's of course total cost of ownership is much cheaper. Everyone knows that number is very well established. But then on a day-to-day basis, running cost, that delta savings, because 100-kilometer run on a gasoline car will cost 7.5 liters, which is about $10, $12. But electric car will cost maybe 15 kilowatt hour, which is about $3. So that $10 versus $3 remains. And if it's very expensive, electricity may be $5 versus $10. So I think that fundamental difference will be there. Now, if we dig down a little more, imagine we have an electric equivalent Toyota Corolla. So purchase price, say the same, about $40,000. Battery size about 60 kilowatt hours. And future battery cost, the way it is coming down, maybe about $40 per kilowatt hour. I think that's what we will be looking at in future, which means about $3,000. And energy use, as I said before, 15 kilowatt hour per 100. So annual running cost is just about $1,200. Maintenance, nothing. Insurance registration, maybe a bit more, $2,000. So total annual running costs become $3,000 to $3,500. So the battery that everyone fears a lot pays for itself back in about a year from the savings. But if we look at all the data that are coming from Teslas, people are driving very long ranges, 20 years, 250,000 kilometers with the same battery, with the degradation of only 10, 20%. So I think it's very easy to say, and very confidently to say, that electric car today may be cheaper to operate. Tomorrow it will be cheaper to own overall. And day after tomorrow, it will be so cheap to own that the gasoline car will become a liability. Now, cars have been seen as a depreciating asset. Its liability in most households is something we need to have. It's like an utility, electricity we need to have, but it's a liability. It's something we have to pay. People do not see the utility of electricity directly. People always say it's a liability. I need to pay for the bills. But of course, we assume that electricity should be there. So car is something like that. It is a depreciating asset. People buy fancy car, people buy cheap cars, but it's an asset which we consider as a liability, means it costs us to operate. Now, that is going to change because two things. First is if Tesla's experiment with robotaxi, not if, when it becomes very common, like Airbnb, anybody can put a house on Airbnb in most countries. Anybody can put their car or join an Uber, become a driver in most countries because the platform is there. So when autonomous vehicle platforms are well established, that we would be able to give our car to the system. Right now, looks like Tesla's system is the only one going ahead, but I'm sure there will be multiple system. It won't be a single platform. When we are able to put our car into a pool where it can provide vehicle as a service, transport as a service, when we are not using the car, of course, it is going to earn money. Like it's very common in Asia, I've seen that people have a business whereby their car in a particular hour is actually given to a driver who runs the car and earns money for it, and driver pays a fixed amount for renting the car for that hour, and there is some sort of revenue sharing arrangement. So with platform like Tesla robotaxi, car will no longer be a depreciating assets. It will be a depreciating asset, but it will be an income generating asset at the same time. First, because of robotaxis of the world, that it would be able to go and provide a service to the fleet. Like right now, it's possible to do a Uber rent. If your car is free, you can put into Uber rent and someone will come and rent your car. So it's basically to rent. But when it's self-driven car, it becomes even a bit more. Second, the car can be the home battery, vehicle to home. Rather than buying a home battery, the car batteries are almost 4 times the size of a typical home battery. So it can provide a service. If you have a solar power and if you have multiple car, if it's timed properly, then it's a power source. It's offset the services currently provided by the electric company. And then the next level, which is slowly happening, the vehicle to grid that we have discussed quite a bit on my platform with quite a number of experts, that your car connects to the grid. The charging is now bi-directional, like an USB-C, which actually can charge. I can connect, this monitor has a USB-C, I can charge my computer. At the same time, I think I can turn the monitor on with the computer. So the electricity can flow both direction. So similarly, bidirectional charging, when it becomes commonplace, when the protocols are being sorted out, and at any point we can charge and discharge our cars, that's going to change the world quite in a meaningful and interesting way. And all of those is going to contribute making your internal combustion engine car redundant and stranded asset. Because who wants to buy a car that only provides a service to take you from point A to B? Like, who wants to buy a mobile phone that just makes a call? Mobile phones are keeping your appointments, photos, you name it, calendars, contacts, dictation, video camera. So I think as electric car becomes a gadget that can do so much more than taking from point A to B, definitely the competition, an internal combustion engine car, we will have no future, absolutely no future. And that's the future we are looking at. And we have to be very careful in deciding what car to buy today. Whether the government have policies in place or not, it's our own responsibility. When one buys a house, and car is a significant investment, when one buys a share, people look at the future, look at what would be the future value of those. So it should not be just a straight line because the fundamental economics have changed. Like if the technology did not change, this Sony camera, I would be able to sell almost a similar price, but the technology has changed so much. It's sitting on my collections, as many of our mobile phones are, because technology has changed. BlackBerry, on that day when we all had Blackberries, that was a lifesaver. It was unthinkable. Without a BlackBerry board, life could go on. Then came iPhone 3. That was amazing. And now today we are going into an iPhone 17 situation, and we still think, oh my God, how did we live with that technology? And the same thing is going to happen. One of the oldest industry, which is electricity generation and supply, and its cousin, the internal combustion engine car. These two industries did not have major changes in the last 100 odd years. We had SCADA, monitoring, remote operating, and everything else in the power industry. But then suddenly came batteries, where consumers are able to store electricity on their roof, able to use it during evening when the sun is out. And that changed the power industry completely. And in the name of energy transition, as the whole fundamental thinking has changed, rooftop solar collectively has turned power systems upside down. And same going to happen with the electric vehicle. Because this is an amazing marriage between electric vehicle and solar power. When this electrification of transport happens, it's not going to stop in electric vehicle. It's an electric boat, electric bulldozers, electric truck, bus, you name it, the drones. In the midst of that, you don't want to sit down with an old SUV grumbling about not able to find enough fuel stations. Because just imagine, as the number of gasoline car comes down, the unprofitable petrol station, gasoline stations are going to go shut down. You will have a very different kind of range anxiety then, because the corner gasoline station that you have within 5 kilometer range, that might go to 20 kilometer range because there's not much demand. Land prices are going up everywhere. So I think that's also one consideration one needs to have, because if you make a decision to buy a car, deciding today's situation may not be the same. I have been a photographer since I was a teenager, and the technology has changed. I just went through a set of old slides and said, oh, why didn't I take more photos of that situation? Suddenly I realized I was carrying a camera that had a limit of 24 films, then 36 films. These are the 35 millimeter cameras. So maximum you would go to a occasion, and I was a student, one film was more than enough. And you're careful before you press click. Oh my God, we take thousands of photos at any given time. And then, of course, it's a liability to clean them up. Same thing with electric vehicle and gasoline cars. Gasoline cars, people still measure kilometers. Is the tank full? Because at the end of the week, you have to buy electricity to fill up. When you have rooftop solar, when you have zero marginal cost electricity everywhere, because prices are coming down, those worries are going to go away, because, there's no cost, no incremental cost. I drive 2 electric cars, and sometime if I charge at home with solar, or if I charge at a supermarket for free, you suddenly realize 400 kilometer I can drive. It didn't cost me anything. And that's reality is going to happen. And do you think there is any chance, if that car is cheaper than a gasoline car, anyone would think of buying a gasoline car? So coming back to the core of this message, that before you buy a car today, think about the stranded asset risk that you will see in 10 years' time, whether the government has a policy or not, you have to protect your own investment. So let me summarize what the policy do. If there is a policy, it provides certain market certainty, of course. The investment decisions can come in very easily. Automakers, the charging infrastructure service providers, everyone know what maybe roughly the market size will look like. And of course, that reduces on the other side the consumers who are really not making the switch and waiting for incentives might actually reduce that stranded risk, because some might argue that they have a right to know exactly what was the correct policy. They can always say that we did not know. And market always handles certainty very well. Startups, whatever comes in, if there's a market certainty. So that will help if there is a stated policy. And of course, that will help the country as a whole, because the emission reduction targets could be very easily quantified. We know how much volume of electric vehicle will come in, and some people will make accelerated decision right now. What's happening in all over Australia, people are buying batteries. Maybe some people are buying batteries who would have bought it anyway, but this sort of incentive has accelerated those investment decisions. So that will also benefit indirectly. And then, of course, we all will have cleaner air. I mean, Melbourne doesn't have, or Australia in general doesn't have a huge pollution issues, and electric vehicle per se don't reduce that much pollution on road because of the tires. But having said that, there are trucks running all around. There are a lot of heavy vehicles goes through certain corridors. And if they move to electric, that will help. I remember arguing with someone on LinkedIn the other day. He said that, well, if Tim Ryan's point, if wind turbine is earning $30,000 per month for the farmers, whoever sees that can see that wind turbine from the property should be given X dollars a month as a visual pollution. And I was arguing, well, in that case, the trucks, the noisy trucks, the cars that passes through my neighborhood, should I pay a tax? Or that's the status quo? What is the baseline? So all those interesting argument will come in. But the best of it all, if people are given incentive, they open up their eyes to this new technology called electric vehicles. And that will help consumers save quite a lot, because a lot of people do not actually believe that it can cost savings. So if there is a policy there, although I argued at the beginning there's no need, but the policy will help, because the people who are not making the switch, those people who have been carried away by the range anxiety issues and many other issues. Average Australian drives only 30 kilometers a day. I mean, over the Christmas, we are planning to do 3,000-kilometer drive on an electric vehicle. Chargers are everywhere. Of course, we have to do a bit of planning. So I think that would be another interesting. And then, of course, we don't have to worry. I have not been to a gasoline station for almost close to 2 years. So I don't worry about petrol prices. Before, we used to always argue which day of the week we have to buy the fuel, which petrol station gives a cheaper price. We don't have to. So that sort of unbundling from the global oil price and individual level of consumption, that's quite a bit freedom. And if Australia in general and millions of dollars gets spent on diesel every month, and if electric vehicles charged by the solar can be a real thing and people adopt quickly, that will import the national sort of fuel import bit. And overall, once you have sufficient number, I mean, that will happen irrespective, but the policy will trigger it. Then, of course, the vehicle to home, the V2H, and vehicle to grid, the V2G, will prosper very easily, because as soon as we have many companies are bringing those vehicles into the country because they're import, and sort of bidirectional charging becomes quite universal, obviously, then people, especially with their holiday homes and others, will think twice. Why do I need to have electric supply to this house? We can just connect the car to the house. And that will also save, especially in remote places where distribution companies have to maintain maybe 10, 20, 100 kilometer of line just to serve a few dozen customers. If they all go to off-grid, that's like today's solution, or they all go to V2H, vehicle to home solution, that will save the society quite a bit. And then, of course, if all that happens, it's easy to societal policy making. The national electricity market people can do better forecasts because all those electric vehicle will take in a lot of energy from the daytime surplus solar. In most cases, they have nowhere to go. So I think overall there is an argument also from the societal perspective to have a policy, and also Australia then aligns with UK, Norway, to an extent, some cities in US, China, and Japan and others in certain trajectories to make sure the country is sort of getting out the internal combustion engine car. And lastly, it's very essential. If you are not, then you could technically be the dumping ground of the world of all the obsolete ICE cars, especially the right-hand driving ones that are there. They will get dumped into Australia. So I think overall, from a policy perspective, there's not much risk. Even the cost-wise, there may not be much cost to the government alone, but there will be huge societal benefit, especially people who are not going to make the switch on their own. They will hold on to a lot of beliefs because that's what they have been told. Range anxiety is being one of them. Electric vehicle can't do this, can't do that, being the other. But they will never find out that, wow, you can actually drive a car 50,000 kilometers, 2 to 3 years, and never need to go to a mechanic because there's no engine oil to change, no fan belt to check, no spark plug, no sort of short startup batteries. And those things can only happen once you have owned an electric vehicle, driven one. So I think there is an overall argument. So I'd like to get your comments on these things. I mean, there could be political backlash because I think Europe is now thinking twice about this policy. But I think Australia has the unique opportunity right now to do it right because we have, on a per capita basis, the largest rooftop solar, and already, I think, on a per capita basis, largest number of home battery ownership. Why not electric vehicle? Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Energypreneurs.
If you enjoy this, don't forget the full video is on YouTube.
Just search Energypreneurs.
Thank you. See you next time.